Welcome to the Dysfunction Junkies podcast. We may not have seen it all, but we've seen enough. And now, here are your hosts, Chrisy and Kerry.
Hello, junkies. Welcome back. I'm Kerry.
And I'm Chrisy.
Summer is finally here. I think we can safely say that.
No. I bet
It's Ohio.
We're going to get some snow still.
You know, sadly, that could very well be true.
It could be. You never know. Plan for it, I guess. Hope it doesn't show up, though.
Got any exciting things happening for this summer?
No.
No. Well, we always go on our big vacation in June, so we got that coming up. But it kind of just brought some nostalgia. This past weekend was Memorial Day weekend, and I know that's kind of like a big official kickoff for summer and getting things ready. So we were busy at the farm as always, you know, starting to get things out, get things summer, you know, get the patio swing out and the patio tables and stuff. Kind of made me reminisce about what we used to do as kids for opening up of summer. What was your experience with that?
Memorial Day is the start. That's like the official start.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world tells you this. And people really do celebrate Memorial Day, which is lovely. Yeah. I grew up with a pool.
Yeah.
Again, nothing fancy. It was an above ground pool. We lived in a nice area though, where we had a lot of property. So, I mean, it was nice. We enjoyed it very much and had a great time with it. My father was meticulous about taking care of it. So, but the opening of it,
Yes.
like everything else, generally in my family that required all of us to participate in something together,
Okay.
was a bit of an ordeal.
It was a family bonding experience.
No.
No.
It was basically our opportunity to know how much we just can't stand being around each other, probably. That dad could really be a pain in the old ass when it came to this. But because he was very particular about this, and we, to all fairness to him, we all, probably more me than any of my siblings. I was the one that was going to be in that pool the most.
Yeah.
Because I lived at home longer than the other two.
Right.
And I, of course, didn't have kids right away. Although if I did, they would have been enjoying it too at that time. And just, it was important for me. And then when I was married, to go over. And I did have some nice time with my parents. Sundays were generally the day you would go over there. And we had dinner with everybody.
Right.
Usually on Sunday. My siblings would come over later in the day. But my husband and I really appreciate that I had this opportunity with my parents was Sunday mornings, because we didn't have kids.
Right.
We would make it a point to go over there for breakfast. And my other two sisters did not get moving that early. Well, because my one sister had kids and stuff.
Right.
And so we would have the paper and we would all sort of toss the sections of the paper, would sort of alternate around the table.
Right.
And we would eat breakfast together and just talk about some things. And then usually my husband and I would go home for a little bit and then we would come back for dinner later. But I am glad we had those moments in the morning that was just me and my husband and my parents.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But the pool opening thing was interesting.
It was an event.
It was a little bit of an event. Because,
What made it such an event?
well, you had to get the cover off of it. That's
Right.
first and foremost. And my father had like these inflatables in it that would keep the cover from being able to sag in the middle.
Right.
After you've gone through a fall, winter, and spring of rain and snow and everything else and leaves falling.
Yes.
So that way it was more manageable, so it didn't scoop down in the middle.
Right.
Because then you'd be worried if the weight of it would all be concentrated in one place, it would break through and you'd have a whole problem. So the gucky water would pretty much go to the sides.
Ugh.
And the one thing during those time periods when we would get a lot of rain or snow that my father was so nice to ask of you, but he did it himself too, but he expected you to do it as well. He had like a hose. It was like this clear hose that he stuck on the cover with like this brick to hold it down.
Okay.
So basically
He's going to siphon the water off.
It basically sat in the middle of that guck. And he would go out, or he would ask you to go out, and you would take the hose that was running out of the top of the pool onto the ground, and he would tell you to put it in your mouth.
Oh, you had to start the siphon.
You had to start it. And so you didn't question it. Dad said to do it. Your butt's going to be in that pool this summer. You're going to do that. So you'd go out there and you'd pull the water through and you'd spit it all out and be like, oh, God. I can't believe I just did that. But that's what we would do. So usually you could come over to my parents' house at some point and see somebody out there. You'd be like, what the hell are they doing back there? It don't look good. We don't talk about that. So yeah, you had to get the stuff off the top of the pool. And when we were taking the cover off, the whole goal was to be able to take the cover off in a way where nothing got in the pool. My father...
You didn't want that gook in the pool.
No. And even when you get the liquid off of it, it still had dried crap all over it. And my father prided himself on having crystal clear water.
I remember
from
that.
the word go.
Yeah.
Never... And I don't remember ever having that pool opened up where it was cloudy or anything. And there was a lot of yelling and a lot of, don't let that fall in there. It was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
In fact, one year I do remember my husband came to the rescue because the cover was going and nobody had the one end and it was going to go down and a bunch of damn yucky stuff was about to pour into that crystal blue water. And God love him. He jumped
Nick
in.
saved the day.
That water was probably only about 50 degrees if you're lucky, because it was.
Oh,
early.
you jumped all the way in the pool.
Oh yeah, he had to jump in to hold it up, and it stopped it. He was, and my father really appreciated that, and my father would bring it up.
Yeah, I definitely got my gold star for that.
You got brownie points that day.
Because he would. Well, it was the whole summer. He would refer to, Nick got in there and got them leaves out of there. And I was in good after that.
Yeah. Probably. Well, you always were kind of a little bit better than me. Yeah, probably a favorite child in general. So the pool would come off, and then it would be go time for us to get never had a heater on the pool.
That might have been hard though in Ohio though.
Well, believe it or not, because most pools in Ohio probably, especially nowadays, do have heaters.
Right.
Because how are you going to get your money's
That's what I'm
worth out?
saying. So it was hard for how did he keep it so you could use it so much? Did you have a solar cover?
We did have that for a little while. When they first came out, my father, of course, always liked to get the brand new toys that were out. And I remember we had it, but those things were a pain in the butt because you had to put it on and then you had to take it off.
Yeah.
But we did have it. And but I think he actually stored it one year in a shed.
Oh.
And I think some rats or mice must have got into the shed and they basically ripped holes all through it. So he threw it away. He never replaced it. We were fortunate enough that where the pool was located in the yard, it pretty much got sun all day.
That's good.
So it would get warm. When I was a kid, I didn't care what the temperature of the water was.
Right, exactly.
I could get, now if the water's not like covering near 90, it's like, I just really don't want to be in it. That's being old, but being younger, if it was in the 70s, you suffer through. Oh, I'll get used to it. Yeah, I'm in. My lips are blue, and yes, I'm freezing to death. But it takes time to get used to it. So that was generally a stressful day.
Yeah,
it was usually held on our Sunday when he knew everybody was going to at least come around.
So you had more hands.
Well, then they'd have a meal afterwards. I mean, there was incentive, I guess. There, so, but yeah, so the pool opening, it was the start of summer, and it was a big deal, and it was generally unpleasant while it happened, but you got through it.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you guys do?
Well, we didn't have one of the things that my dad had when I was growing up was he did have a boat. So he had gotten this boat. Who knows how he got it? To this day, I'm not really sure how he afforded it because, again, we didn't have a lot of money. He probably had a scratch-off ticket or something that hit, so he got some money. So he got this little metal fishing boat type of thing, and it was nothing fancy. Trust me, it was nothing fancy. But so we had this boat that we would take out. So I remember the beginning of the summer, we would, had to get the boat ready, had to get it all cleaned up, and again, getting all from the critters over the winter that found safe haven in there, and you'd be finding nuts and, what are these walnuts and stuff. The shells were all in there from some critter that got their way in there. So we're digging all that out, cleaning that out. But I'll never forget one of the first outings when we got the boat ready. So we go out to the lake and we're going to go fishing. So my dad wanted to, he liked to fish. And we fished a lot growing up. And we were on the boat. And I had one of those fishing poles that was for kids that had the little like button. So when you went to cast, you just the button and then you would let go and it would cast out instead of the reel.
Oh, okay.
Whereas my dad was in the back of the boat, I was in the front of the boat. And we spent the whole previous day getting the boat ready, getting ready for the summer, our first summer outing. And we go out to the lake, we get in, we get out to the middle of the lake. Okay, we're going to start fishing. He's casting out the back. I went to cast out the front. I hit the button and threw it out there. Well, the button got stuck. And so the line didn't keep going. It stopped. And so it swung and the line swung all the way around behind and it hooked my dad. And
Oh my God.
oh, it's better. It not only hooked him, but it literally hooked him right on the mouth.
Oh my gosh.
And it had a little minnow on it, and the little minnow was hanging out the side of his mouth. And I just remember turning around, like we both turned around to look at each other, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna die. This is gonna be the last day I live. And he just reached up, took the little fishing hook with the minnow from his mouth. We're going in, and that's all he said. And we very quietly drove back to shore, 7-10 miles into town, get home. I'm the whole time like, oh, I'm going to get a beating. I'm going to get a beating. This is going to be bad. Never said a word. Now, to this day, well, obviously not now because he's passed away, but up until he died, he would tell that story and laugh and laugh and laugh.
But not when it happened.
Oh, not that day. It did not that weekend. It probably took a couple months. And I think when we first walked into the house, like mom, I walked in first and mom's like, what are you doing back so home? And I'm like, I hooked dad in the mouth and he's going to beat me. Well, I'm like hysterical. Dad comes in. He was quiet. He didn't say a word. I'm telling you, for like 2 days, he didn't say a word. And then afterwards, then he finally laughed about it. But
I mean, that's totally an accident.
oh, it was totally an accident. But the irony of it all, to land, not only just get stuck and to hit him, but to hit him and land in the, like right there in the corner of the mouth. And to this day, I can see that little minnow just.
Oh my God. Well,
yeah, I never went out on the boat. I don't really remember much going on the boat after that fishing.
Aw, that's a bummer. I'm kind of bummed out for you. I'm not much into. I did go fit. Not with my father. That would not be something he would do. He wasn't ever into fishing or anything. I had neighbors that were really into it, and they would sometimes take me for a weekend. Gentleman and his wife, we were really close with, and they had a place. It was called Lake Tomahawk, and what county was that in?
I was gonna say, where's that at?
That's in Columbiana.
It was in Columbiana.
Okay.
So they had like a cabin there.
Yeah.
And he was a big time fisherman.
Yeah.
He loved fishing. And so it was fun to learn to do that from him. You know, my dad wasn't into it. And so I did get some time fishing with him. I always wanted one of those poles.
Yeah.
That would be like even the casting.
Yeah.
Because to me, in my mind, that's what fishing is supposed to look like.
Casting. Not sitting.
The gentleman didn't have those. His name was George. George didn't have those kind of poles for me.
Right.
I'm sure he probably used them because he was fairly schooled with doing this.
Yeah.
But he used this kind too. To my mind, it seemed like it was as high as a building. It was a bamboo.
Oh.
And on this bamboo pole that to me seemed to be 20 feet long.
Yeah.
Had different areas of hooks.
Yes.
And you would take it and then being a kid, again, that I was able to do this is probably a testament to his patience. He was a fairly patient man. I had to be the one that put the worm on it.
Oh, yeah.
I was required to do this if I wanted to participate in this activity. And you didn't just put a whole worm.
Right.
In the saving, you would like quarter it.
Right.
Or with your finger.
Pieces,
And slide it on. I can't believe I did this stuff. I did it though.
I could do it as a kid all day long, but now if we go fishing, I'm like to Jim, I'm like, okay, you need to bait my hook for me.
Well, you're better than me because there's just no way in hell I'm going fishing at all. But Yeah, and then you would catch, we'd do blue, there was perch and rainbow trouts and blue. I mean, the lake was fairly well stocked. The only thing I could never do was I could never, ever take the fish off the hook.
Yeah.
He always had to do that for me. I think I tried one time and I totally panicked. I couldn't get the hook off of it, and I was afraid that the scales were going to, because I know you had to like reach and push the scales or the fin or whatever the hell you were touching on there, and slimy and wet. And I would think, okay, well, you did the worm. What's wrong with this? But, and you know, and you feel like you're hurting it. We never kept the fish. Well, I did. We would throw them back, which is really actually horrible, because you're like damaging something, and then hopefully it's going to survive after you've did what you did to it. Yeah, I could never ever do the taking the fish off. Yeah. But I do remember that time, him and his wife Betty. George passed away quite a while ago. Betty, probably within the last 8 years, maybe. I think she's probably passed away. Yeah. We always stayed very close with them. Like I said, they were neighbors of mine growing up, and just great people. So, yeah, so the fishing thing, when you're talking about the fact that you did this to your father, though, and he didn't say anything.
Yeah, total silence.
This going along with my swimming pool summer story is my father was fairly meticulous in his appearance.
Okay.
Which is a nice thing. I appreciate the fact that my father, but most people, I'm sure Dad he took care of, everybody takes care of themselves. Yeah. My father, I just feel like took it another level. Like his time in the morning to get ready for the day was actually longer than my mother.
Oh.
I mean, he had to.
He had a ritual.
He had a ritual. His hair had to be styled. And my father had beautiful hair.
Yeah, he did.
And you probably looked at it and thought it wasn't even real because it was that nice.
Yeah.
But it was. And he would style his hair and hairspray it. And he was very well cologned all the time.
I was just going to say, didn't your dad have a whole bunch of colognes?
Yes.
I remember something about a whole bunch of bottles.
Yeah. He liked to have his fragrances. So we were in the pool, and my father was a very good swimmer. And he actually used to sort of do some competitive diving, nothing real serious, but I think just with like one of the watering holes they used to frequent, he would compete with diving and stuff with other boys, and people remember him being able to do it fairly well. We were in the pool. Now, you didn't know for sure. There were days, most of the time Dad did not get his hair wet.
Right.
He was in the pool with you and he would like to enjoy it, but there were times when he would full on swim and get his hair wet and everything. And he liked to sort of pick at you a little bit in the pool. And so he would do this thing where he would cup his hands and he would pound down with his hands real hard, and it would shoot the water up very high. Well, he would do this so many times at you where it just would be like almost like water torture.
Waterboarded.
Yes. I mean, he would sit there and just continually do it at you, and you're just getting hit constantly in the face. Well, the one time I finally just had enough. And maybe the rules weren't completely explained to me until after this incident.
Oh, no.
So I went back at him, and I splashed him to try and get him to stop splashing me, and I got his hair all wet. He stopped, he got out of the pool, and he walked away and never said a word to me.
See? Isn't that like the worst?
Well, I mean, I was just like, well, what's the fairness in this, though? I wasn't afraid he was going to do anything to me except maybe yell, but the silence sometimes is worse than the yelling.
That's what I'm saying. The worst is that silence, that just they stop talking and they walk away.
Yeah. And
now, for me, the worry was what's going to happen when he comes back. And that was just because of the cycle of the situation I was in.
Right.
But still, and I
didn't have that.
Right. But see, for me, that's where it was probably why the silence was scary, because it was like, well, what comes after the silence? So.
I was more offended that we were not on an even playing level here.
Right.
But again, my understanding too was, though, that I generally did have a good understanding that I was the kid.
Yeah.
And that
you could not retaliate.
And he was the dad.
Yeah.
That's why he always got first dibs on the food and first dibs on what we were watching when we had to share a television.
Oh.
And you only watched what Dad was watching.
Dad's rules.
Until they finally threw me a bone and got me my own TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I was always kind of bummed out about that. I was like, man, I'm a sore loser.
Did you ever talk about that with your dad later in life?
No.
Oh. That's a hard no.
No, I don't remember ever being able to do that with my dad. And I'm not saying it's a personality defect or that it speaks volumes about maybe the dysfunction, but with the uncomfortable situations that maybe occurred like that, where he, in his way, either disciplined or treated you with silence because he didn't approve of what you did, you didn't bring it up again.
Yeah.
No.
So even as an adult, you're never able to go back and talk about some of these dysfunctions or whatever.
No.
That was one, that was kind of one thing where, as dysfunctional as things were, as we got older, and I can't say that maybe my sisters do, and maybe it was just me because I'm just open and I want to talk about things, you know, but we did talk about like that story with the fish would come up a lot, you know, and, you know, or other things we would talk about. And yeah, like one time, what you want to talk about being naughty. Here's something I did think
All
of.
right, here we go.
It's not that bad, but still, the girl that was bullying me, the one that I talked about in the previous episode about the Glockenspiel, that I glockenspieled her.
Yeah. Nick's
So
phrase, yeah.
after that happened, she would prank phone call the house.
To explain this to people who don't
I know.
what this is.
This is true. So, you know, back in the day when you had the phone on the wall with the line and people would call, you know, your number and you'd pick up, hello, and there'd be nobody there.
Or they would say something stupid.
Say something really stupid or whatever, you know, and hang up. And you didn't have what number it is.
No call. It was there was a little while where you didn't have caller ID.
You didn't have
either.
caller ID.
No.
Once in a while, you could at one point do the reverse dial. I got home from school. That was that week that she was suspended, and the phone kept ringing and it was nobody there. I was home by myself. It was right after school, and my mom was out of town. I don't know where she was at, but I just remember she was out of town, so it was just me and Dad, but Dad was not home from work yet. I picked up the phone. I got so irritated. It kept being nobody there, and I just knew it had to be this girl. I went off and I did, you know, that's that scene from the Christmas Story where the dad's swearing all these words, you know. Well, that was me. I just said everything. I was like, you bleepity bleep bleep bleep, and you effing bleep bleep bleep. I went off, hung the phone up. Phone rings again. I pick up. It was my dad.
Oh, is that who you said all those words to?
Yes.
Ooh, timing is bad.
Well, here he got stuck at work or something, and there was some bad connection, so he could hear me, but I wasn't hearing him. So he kept calling to try to tell me that he was going to be late or whatever, and then he hears me just this whole string of words, you know, that he probably never thought that his daughter knew much about anything. But I remember years later, we had a conversation about that story, and here he said he was going to tell my mom, but he never did tell my mom. But,
would she have punished you?
Oh, probably.
Really?
Probably. I would have probably been sentenced to extra masses and more Hail Marys and rosaries and God knows what. But
Well,
but going back to the talking about things with your parents after the fact. So
yeah.
So we would have occasions where we would talk about things like that.
I would have that, and I still do have that.
Yeah.
Sometimes things that I did that actually horrified my mother.
Yeah.
And
so you can talk to your mom, but you never had the chance to talk to your dad about those.
yeah, the chances might have been there, but that wasn't how our relationship was.
Yeah.
And you just didn't do that. You kind of had to know what Dad was willing to talk to you. I mean, I had some great conversations with my father. Don't get me wrong. And I feel in general I had a good relationship with him. You know, nobody's perfect. Yeah, that wouldn't have been any sort of part of our talking back and forth or anything.
Well, this morphed into a little bit different than just talking about summer, talking about our relationships there with our dad. So any other summer traditions that you did?
When I was younger, no, the pool was basically pretty much it. You know, we didn't really do the vacation thing on a regular basis. We had kind of talked about that before, and generally vacation was in the fall because that's when their anniversary was. And if I got pulled into having to go with them because my sisters were out of the house already. So you just enjoyed, you know, the swimming pool and, you know, just having fun with neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
Or being tortured by this other dysfunctional family you had to hang around with, or hurting people's fingers, and look forward to that. And bikes, a typical kid of that time period. Swimming, bikes.
I think I realized after the fact, one of the reasons why I so look forward to summer is I had a lot of alone. That was when I had my alone time because both parents worked.
Mm-hmm.
I would be left home alone from 9-ish in the morning until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So my mom might work a half day or whatever, but I had a lot of time to myself. And I think that's kind of sometimes why I like summertime so much and enjoy like going on vacations or just enjoy spending my time outside by myself. That was my solace. That was like recovery time from everything I went through in the previous year at school or whatever,
Right.
Yeah, that's summer. So I love summer. It's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, no, I don't have any. I have pretty much just good memories of summer for the most part, and go to movies. I didn't do too many We had drive-in movies.
Yeah, we did,
but mainly you would just go to the theater.
Yeah,
a lot, and it was summers were good. What can you say? We played. We had a patio, and I do remember Fingers / Natalie. We would play a lot of Monopoly or Trivial Pursuit.
Oh yeah,
and we would have some real good games down there with that. So in between swimming, we would do that. But,
that's fun.
Yeah,
good times. So
absolutely.
Do you think your kids are kind of like summer people? Yeah, like you get people that prefer winter in the cold or summer outside warm. How do you think it's transitioned to them?
Yeah, no, I think they do like to be out. They like the outdoors. My oldest, she played baseball for a while. Mm-hmm. Then she's real involved with tennis, and she started into some track too. But no, she definitely likes to go out. She has a skateboard.
Yeah,
and she amazes me. She just basically gets on this. She's got her phone.
Yeah,
she's holding on to her phone, and she just takes that skateboard out, jumps on it.
It is down and texting and everything all the same time.
Her hands and she's completely balanced on the thing, and she skateboards.
That's awesome.
We have it. This is a nice where we live now is a good neighborhood. We have good families here, and there's kids here.
Yeah,
and she'll usually go and hang with some of the kids. She's kind of the oldest by a year or two, but there are still kids close enough to her age where she can sort of relate to them and hang around with them.
That's fun.
And we have a golf cart now, which is fun.
I was thinking about your golf cart because I'm training for this marathon. Been doing a couple 5Ks. Have a half marathon that I'm going to be doing just to kind of help train and stuff. But I was thinking about when we run the marathon, I was like, oh yeah, one of these shows or whatever, one of these episodes or times we're here, we should do a Facebook Live of me practicing for the marathon, and you could be following me in the golf cart, encouraging me.
Yes. As soon as people think of how can I find someone who will encourage me, I'm the first person that probably comes into their mind. Of course. So reassuring.
It'll be an episode of Kerry, go.
Yeah. Go faster. No, faster.
You look like you're getting tired. Do you want this water? Nah, you don't want no water. Look at me drink the water, Kerry. Yummy.
Well, I am just so excited that summer is here. We've got some great topics coming up over the summer that we're going to be talking about, sharing with you, and more events to come. So please be sure to keep tuning in. Check us out on our Facebook page. Share with us your summer traditions, your opening summer traditions, or things you'd like to do in the summer. We want to hear it all.
Yes, and make sure you get a lot of vitamin D, everybody.
Wear sunscreen.
Oh, yes.
So
please do.
All right, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.